Welcome back to another episode of How'd You Get Here? And I am honored to have today's guest. He has specific knowledge in a great game we call football. He is well versed in that game. He has played the game at the highest level and coached at the highest level. I'd like to welcome Brentson Buckner. How you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
So I appreciate you stepping in on this. So if you can, let's give the listeners some background into your career and what's going on with you right now.
I started off. I'm originally from Columbus, Georgia. I went to Clemson University on a football scholarship. Was a second-round draft pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Played 12 years in the NFL. Pittsburgh, San Francisco. Retired with the Carolina Panthers. 5 years after playing football, I did a lot of personal training at first. Never really considered coaching. I trained a lot of
Okay.
first-round draft choices, Glenn Dorsey, Brandon Graham, the Puncy twins, Bruce Arians, just named a few, just doing personal training. So around 2013, I got into the NFL coaching. I was hired by Bruce Arians for the Arizona Cardinals, and I coached for the Arizona Cardinals. I coached for Tampa Bay. I coached for the Raiders Nation, Oakland Raiders. And I just finished up 2 years with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So that's a clean lineup right there. And what it sounds though to me is a lot of transitions have to happen once you got into that coaching space because you're talking about different geographies and switches and changes. Tell me what that's like.
Oh, it's really. I remember getting into coaching. I remember Bruce Arians. He said, before we can make this final, you got to go home and talk to your wife and your family. And I'm like, why? It's a job for me. He's like, because the transition is going to affect them more than it affects you. Because he told me in a 5-year span one time, he moved 17 times, just going from different jobs.
Wow.
He would go to different jobs within different jobs, different years. And so he's like, you got to have your family on board, with this coaching thing. And so it's a big transition because the first year I got into coaching, my oldest daughter was going into her senior year of high school, her junior year of high school, and it was miserable because if you got kids, they got their friends they've grown up with, they all talk about what they're going to do after graduation, what schools they're going to go to, and how they're going to plan their life out for the next 5 years. Their dad come home and say, we're moving to Arizona. And no, she was devastated. She was devastated. So for the first year I was in Arizona, I actually went by myself. So I sat down with my wife and my daughter and I said, hey, I'm going to go by myself the first year because we could go out there, have a bad year, and get fired. So I'll let you have your test year here to see how it would go. Went to Arizona. We did good the first year. We ended up getting a contract extension. My daughter actually sacrificed. She moved to Arizona her senior year.
Wow.
The family moved out, and which really was a blessing in disguise. So the family moved out, and it really was a blessing in disguise because she was always, academically, she was always one of the top in her schools. But going to Arizona, it got more light was brought on it. She received academic scholarship offers from different schools. Ended up going to Arizona State to their Barrett School of Honor at Arizona State. She ended up getting a scholarship going there and graduating summa cum laude and ended up going to medical school. So she's a doctor now. So, it all worked out. But the transition in coaching, people don't understand. It's not just the focus be on the coach itself, but it's really stress on the family because kids always changing schools, changing friends, and kids get in their groups, especially around that teenage, that 14 to 17, they got their friends, they got what they want to do.
Yep.
Then you move them, and so it's a big sacrifice from the family point of view.
That's amazing because to your point, the family got to buy in, and that just the fact that you said Arians moved 17 times.
4-year span, he moved 17 times.
That's wow. So you got to have buy-in for real on that. So it sounds like the family this is either the family's gonna get you into coaching or they ain't gonna let you get into coaching, is what it sounds like.
It really is because if you look back the history of coaching, so many families struggle with the profession because it's so much time away. And that's
Mm.
the older days. You spending time in the office. You're not getting a chance to see your kids. You're putting a lot of stress on the husband and the wife. So I was blessed. I was blessed to be with Arians, and his whole focus was family. What I mean? His whole thing was, if you missed a recital, you missed a game, you missed anything dealing with your kids and use football coaching as a excuse, it was grounds for him to fire you. So he forced you to integrate your family into your coaching. Because he would always say, football, being a coach is going to end one day for all of us. But your family is your family. And time with your kids and your wife, you can't get that back. So he was not going to allow you to sacrifice that time just for a sport. And it actually made us better coaches because we got a chance to get away from it, the coaching aspect of it, but also it integrated the family. It was more of a family atmosphere. The family got involved. So you always had your family back. So your kids weren't mad when you went to work because they know if they needed you, daddy could come home from work and be there. So they was very excited. It made for a great coaching atmosphere.
I got to say, Arians, he cares about his staff. That I can tell you that just from what I just heard, because that's amazing. That's great insight, right? Because he didn't have to do it that way. He could just, because I would imagine he's probably not like everybody else.
He wasn't, and that was his main goal. Because he's Bruce Arians. Everybody knows he's very forthcoming. He doesn't bite his tongue for anything. And I never forget our first staff meeting. He was just like, he refused to allow good men to lose their families because of working football. And, he just had rules. Your family had to be involved. He encouraged family because I called hell for the first year because my family didn't come out there. And I was trying to explain, look, we want to give our daughter a chance to see if she can go a year and a half without her dad. And he was like, I'm going to tell you it's not going to be able to work. Either they're going to end up coming here or you're going to have to tell me, Coach, I can't do it no more. And, by God's graces, my family's like, we're going to come out there. And everything went smooth. But his thing was, he got into coaching at a young age out of college back in the 70s. And he saw so many men lose their families due to football. Wasn't there to see their kids grow up, miss so many days of their kids. There's things you can't get back. And he never wanted to be that way. And he's like, you can win games and still have your family. And that's what he set out to do. And thank God, because I think he was a pioneer of showing coaches that you didn't have to live in the office. You heard the horror stories. I sleep in my office. He used to always say, why the hell would I buy a house with a bedroom and sleep in the office? He's like, I'm going home. He like football.
Right.
He used to always walk by my office. He's like, that football going to look just the same at 7 o'clock in the morning as it do at 7 o'clock at night. And that was his way of telling you, go home.
Right. Now that's good stuff. So I want to go here then. So, you played football, and we know that there's lessons that come from being an athlete, right? And what lessons did you take from the game that helped you transition your family, right? And go and handle that whole situation of being away from your family, right? And then bringing them to a whole new situation. Did the game help you in any way?
Yeah, the game helped because, in sports, as an athlete, as a professional athlete, the higher you go, the more sacrifices you have. As an athlete, you're wired. You're going to sacrifice something, some kind of fun, some kind of, homeboys, or being in situations, going places. I can't go there because I got this. And so it sets a discipline for yourself. So when I went into coaching, knowing that, all right, the first year, my family's not going to be there. So I went into, I'm sacrificing that for the better good of my career. You know what I mean? So you go in that mindset, well, I'm doing this for this. It's just like being outside when it's 100 degrees and running 30 sprints when everybody else in their car driving by laughing at you. Well, to be an elite athlete, that's what you did. You train when other people didn't want to train. You went to the weight room when other people wanted to go hang out. So I just went into that mindset of that I'm doing something that's going to help me on the back end. And then it instilled the discipline in me. I was able to set my work ethic the way I wanted to be, and learn how to manage my time. So when my family
Mhm.
did come out there, everything was in order. All right, this is the time I go to work. This is what I do. But hey, I can do this, and I have time to do this. I can go watch my daughter. My oldest daughter was a cheerleader and did competitive cheer. My youngest daughter was a volleyball player. My son played football and basketball. So I had everything in order, and I knew exactly how I could go about things. And we sort of run, our family sort of ran like a team. We call ourselves Team Buckner. You know what I mean? We all play our different roles. And my kids understand they have a role inside the family. My wife have a role inside the family. I do. But at the end of the day, all our roles is to make the family better. And that's the way we attack. And I learned that through football, because football teaches you, sports teaches you you have a sports family. You all come from different
Mhm.
walks of life. You like different things, but at the end of the day, you all got to be on the same page to get the common goal, which is to win. And so I implemented that into our family, and that's what we do. Everything we do is meant for our Team Butler, to win at the end.
Let me ask you this question, you know, because you talk about, the discipline involved. When did you get into the coaching space? Did you start on the high school level did you test the waters anywhere? I know you said you trained some kids, but from a coaching side of it, when did you get started in that?
From the coaching side, I actually started with Little League football. I started coaching 7 to
Okay.
9 years old. That was my first integration into coaching. You know what I mean? 7 to 9 year olds, right at that age where you might have 4 or 5 that think they're going to be the next Heisman Trophy winner. You're going to have another
Right.
7 to 10 that they like it, but they on the fence. But then you're going to have that group of 13 that's going to scream and cry when their parents put them out that car because they don't want to do it. So
They
my
don't do
first
it.
my first test in the water was, how do I get all these kids to get on the same page? How do I keep the superstar ones that love sports, that grow up playing with their big brothers, keep them interested? How do I get the middle class to get a little better? But more importantly, how do I get that group that don't want nothing to do with football, that's screaming and hollering, don't want to come to practice, don't care if they're playing the game? How do I make the game fun to them? And that's what I
Mhm.
did until I eventually became a head coach in high school for 2 years. Then I went on to the NFL, and it was a choice. It really puts your mind in a place where, all right, get everybody on the same page, but make it fun for everybody. Don't have the don't have the superstar guy sitting over on the side like, coach, this boring. Or don't have the kid that don't want to play scared to practice because he's not as skilled as the older guys. And so I did that for years, and just able to integrate them through, different techniques, and, just building everybody up. And find what I learned to do was find every player's strong suit. Don't coach them from what they do bad. Coach them for what they do good, then build on it and build on it. And before you
Mhm.
know it, the kids that didn't want to come to practice, that screamed and hollered by the third game of the year, they're the first one that practice every day. They don't want, now they scream and holler when practice over with because they don't want to go. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then learning how to build leadership inside the group. The kids that's already
Yes.
advanced, now you become the big brother to the kid that's just starting to play football for the first time. And so I developed that skill. Now we had accountability teams where I would break them into groups of 5, and everybody here got to succeed. Even they 7 to 9, like, you're gonna call him and make sure how his day was at school. Make sure he didn't get no notes brought home. Then at practice, y'all gonna sit and talk, and y'all gonna talk. Y'all gonna if he has a problem, he's gonna call you. And then we begin to build those relationships. Before you know it, man, the team aspect was crazy, and that just put me in the mind that I was, if I could do that with 7 to 9 year olds, I can coach anybody. NFL was easy after
I
coaching
got to
seven.
tell you though, listen, that's incredible to me because you know what you did with 7-year olds is what you were probably doing with 27-year olds, right? And because the concept has to stay the same, right? Because there's pockets of people within that team atmosphere. I gotta imagine, and everybody's not at the same level. right? Now, but not everybody's at the same desire, right? And so, but it's cohesion that's needed to be successful. So that's pretty tough stuff when I hear that, right? To be able to do that with 7-year-olds and then take that to the highest level. That's truly amazing. So question for you: Have you so any of those 7, 9-year-olds, those younger kids, have you spoken to any of them? Do you know what they're doing these days?
Oh, I speak to a lot of them. Because the one thing that my goal was always, and I was a big proponent of this. We've always told sports, you're a family. Every coach, we're a family. We love each other.
Hmm.
But then when you get finished playing for a coach, he don't call you no more. He don't check on you. You know what I mean? I'm like, what kind of family is that? That always
Hmm.
bothered me as a player. And I used to always say, if I ever got into coaching, if I ever come out my mouth and say we are a family, it's gonna be family. So I talk to guys all the time from little league to when I coached high school. Like one of the kids that played for me, Drake Maye, was just drafted to the New England Patriots. I think third pick overall in the draft.
Hmm.
So I always talk to them because they know that to them, I'm Coach Buck and I'm always gonna be there. The calls I get, hey coach, I'm about to get married. I know you've been married for 30 years. How's it gonna be? Can you give me some input on that? Coach, I'm getting into coaching. Can you help me? Can you write me this letter? So I'm always open to my coaches with their parents. I drop them a call every now and then. How you doing? Just checking on them. Especially with social media. I send out a post. Hey man, just checking on. Oh, I see you just graduated from college. Oh, you just had your first child. Congratulations, welcome to the club. So those are things I'm always gonna be there. I've never closed my door to any kid I ever coached or their parents. I had kids go off to college or giving commencement speeches at high school that wanted to thank me for the things I taught them because I do think that
Hmm.
football in itself and sports mirrors life. There's life lessons you can carry over. And I never just wanted to be a coach. You know what I mean? I call myself a teacher of football, a teacher of life. I've had coaches that I forgot everything they told me. I can tell you what my first grade teacher taught me. So I went by as a different aspect because in order for me to get the best out of a kid or a young man, they got to first trust. How do you build trust? You become an open book, you become a window. They can look in and see your life. I don't hide none of my scars, I don't hide none of my experiences because my history or their future. Meaning I walked where a lot of them wanted to go. So I would be less of a man if I kept all my experiences away from them that might help them lose some pitfalls. Because there's some pitfalls I went through I probably shouldn't have made it out of. And so I don't want them to experience that. And that's the way I always
Hmm.
always attacked it. And that's the way I attacked it even with the pro players more than the young players. You know what I mean? Because now when you get to the NFL, it's all it's money, it's different levels, but they always want one thing. Do you really care about me on off the field as much as you do on the field? Do you care how I'm feeling? Do you care how my family's doing? So when I would have meetings in the NFL, we always started off with, man, what's going on today? What we talking about? It could be who better, Kobe or LeBron or Michael. It could be all right, who's got the best song? Well, it could
Right.
always be, well, coach, how is it with your wife and your child and you end up missing this or you and your wife have this disagreement. How do y'all handle it? So we always have these group forums. So they get to know me, I get to know them. So football becomes easy.
The word that keeps coming back to me as you're talking is effectiveness, right? You've learned how to be effective, um, and how to affect all the people you come across, and so that's a skill that you developed, right? And you had to learn it somewhere, and I think the value of it comes in the communication. So I'm gonna ask you. So, from a mentorship or just from a learned perspective, where does that come from for you?
From a learner, just like watching people, growing up in the 70s and just when it was you heard it take a village to raise a child. And if you grew up in the 70s, you knew it. You had mom and dad, but you had 20 other moms and dad in that community that taught you right from wrong. And I just used to sit back and just watch how people handle different situations. And I just watch, how if my dad wasn't there, a couple of dads were not, how another dad would just take up the mantle and just make sure everything went right. How they handle situations. Also, as I got into coaching, I would go watch, even as a pro coach, I would go watch how this volleyball coach their girls, how this high school coach these kids, and just see the different techniques and the different ways people approach the coaching. Because at the end of the day, it's all about getting that kid to believe they can do something that they probably didn't think they could ever do before they met you. And then so I took that role as more rather than a coach where I'm just barking stuff at you, more of I'm just trying to teach you life. I'm trying to teach you this skill. Yes, I'm going to try to help you be the best football player you can be. And I used to tell my guys this, but if the only thing you are is a better football player and I don't make you a better husband, a better brother, a better son, a better person in the community, a better friend, then we wasted our time. You know what I mean? Because sports only going to be a small part of your life. It's something that you need out of this sport, out of this meeting that we have to help you with the game of life, which is really the true game. That's when there's no timeouts in the game of life. You can't sub in and out of that. You got to play every minute of the game of life to the fullest. And so when I attacked it that way, I knew it was a greater purpose on my life than just X's and O's. And so I go out my way to make sure I'm up on everything, that if I can't get you where you need to go, I can steer you in the right direction. Because at the end of the day, we are charged with leaving this place better than what we found it. And that was always my goal, no matter what team I went to. When I leave, if you fire me, release me, or I got to go somewhere else, the first thing I always ask, is that defensive line room better than where I found it? If your answer is yes, I'll walk out the door. I don't have no control if you don't want me to coach for you no more, or you want to go in a different direction. That's not my job. My job is make it better for the next guy.
No, there's so much that I have off of that, what you just said. So the first thing I want to talk about is hunger, right? So, that if we think about the college football player, right, they have that hunger to get to the league, right? And so they really do what it's going to take. The people who make it are the ones who really put in that work. But once they get there, tell me about the hunger. Is there a real tangible difference that you see in kids that are playing the game when they're in college and then when they get to the league?
Yes, it is, and unfortunately, when that hunger changed, see the career trajectory change. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, and I heard a guy talk one time. I wish I could remember his name. He was like, "Your goal should never be to make it to the NFL, because once you get drafted on a team, you reach your goal." You know what I mean? Your goal shouldn't be just to make it. It should be to get there and sustain a career. A lot of guys work hard. They get to college, they work hard to say, "Oh, I made it to the NFL." Then, all right, if your goal is just to make it and you get that goal, so what's going to keep you in the NFL? Because that's when the heat can turn up. Because what happens, it's the nature of the talent. The talent pool dwindles, and the cream rises to the top. So I think back in the day, I think the numbers now from a high school senior to a professional football player is 1 in 1.4 million people make it. From a high school senior to, so that means the talent gets better. So now you get a pool for the alpha, 1,600 alpha males. So I think it's only like roughly 1,600 NFL jobs in the world. It's 1,600 alpha males. What's going to keep you above that? It's going to be work ethic, how you approach. And if you remember, if I got drafted in '94, it was some kid just coming into college that's like, I want his job. So you're not only fighting the guys in the NFL, you're fighting this young guy that's coming behind you because he's seeing what you're doing and found a way to do it better and try to do it. And he's going to be younger. What's going to make you stay ahead of him? It's got to be your way you work, your hunger. the way you attack things. Some players, they get there and they get satisfied and they stop and then they catch up with it. I always tell guys when they come in, don't look at your career from the starting line. Go to the finish line. You're a lot closer to the finish line than you are to the starting line because the career is only 3.5 years. That's a short time. Once you hit the NFL, that clock is ticking. What are you going to do to prolong that time? Are you going to eat right? Are you going to sleep right? Are you going to rest right? Are you going to be a good person off the field? Are you going to stay away from things that's going to distract from you, being at your best every day? Because it only takes one time sometimes for somebody to come in and be better than you that day. And the coach falls in love with him over you. And now you're in a battle for your football life or your professional life.
Yeah. I mean, I heard somebody talk one time. They talked about, don't let the past frame your present. Let the present frame the past, and let the future frame your present, right? And so that's good stuff. So, and the other part I want to ask you too is, people who think they want to get into the coaching, right? Because you came from the high school ranks and you went to the NFL ranks, and that happens for folks all the time, right? There's levels to this thing, and your talents are what they are. But from a skill set standpoint, what things should people develop, or what attributes should they really acquire on their path to reach the highest level of coaching?
First of all, learn how to be a great student. Because to be a coach, you got to always be learning. You cannot get to a point where you think you know everything. Can't nobody tell you nothing. You can't get better because you're going to get jumped. You're going to get jumped. Somebody's going to surpass you. So you always want to be a great student. You're always trying to educate yourself on how to make your players better or how to make yourself better. Read. Going to talk to other coaches. When I got in the NFL and I was new, I went and sat with coaches. I sat with offensive coaches. I sat with defensive coaches. I sat with special team guys. I'm trying to pull something from. Why you been in the league for 30 years? What can I pull for you? One of the guys I used to always sit with was Tom Moore, who was an offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers when they were still curtain. And he was a senior assistant when I got to Arizona. He's still coaching for Tampa Bay. Here you got a man that got almost 50, 60 years of coaching experience. And he's won championships in almost every decade. So I sat back and listened to the things he would say because he's seen the game change from this to that, but he's still standing the test of time. So I became a great student. But then of that, I became a great teacher. Because when you go in the NFL, yeah, they're professional athletes. They're the best of the best. But Mark don't learn like James. James don't learn like Steve. Steve is different from David. I got to be able to reach every one of these guys in a small amount of time to get them on the same page. You know what I mean? And I got to get them to get on board with the ultimate goal is wherever the head coach set. What are the pillars that the head coach is setting? What is his set? How do I get my group to meet those standards that are being set? So I had to become a great student, but then I had to become a teacher. And if you're a great teacher, you know that you might come in with a lesson plan that might change on the whim. Oh man, my lesson, and you got to be able to change for that without stopping, without showing any kind of hesitation. But then one thing I always learned, I learned at an early age is I can't admit when I'm wrong. You know what I mean? The worst coaches are the ones that tell you something, then you do it, and then they put all the blame on the player. Whereas a coach, I just tell my guys, I like that guy get coached too. His coach is trying to his chest. Now we might have worked on something all week and get to the game. He's changed it. Now this is where I gotta say, hey, we was wrong on that. Let's scrap that. Boom, let's go here. You know what I mean? And you got to just humble yourself. And it's not about. It's always levels. Somebody always gonna know more. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you need to change your room. If I think I'm the best coach or the smartest coach, can't nobody tell me nothing. I need to go find somebody that's smarter than me so I can always elevate because players will know when you don't have no more to give them. And when you don't have no more to give them, that's when they tune you out. So you always got to stay fresh.
That's when you lose the room. Yeah.
Yes.
So let me ask you. So let's talk about the coach that's always right, and it's not that doesn't hold himself accountable. How do you navigate that?
Well, how you navigate not being that guy, or how you navigate just being around that guy?
well, I mean, because you're still going to have to be around him, right? So how do you navigate that space and understand how to
How you,
work within those confines?
how you work with and how you try to work with those confines? You got to, as a player wise, I used to get in trouble with this a lot as a player because I was hard headed and I didn't have no tact on how to. Coach, that don't work, coach. No. So now the coach gets defensive, then I'm getting defensive because I'm using it, it's not working. So you have to find ways to, go to the coach as a man, like, coach, I'm trying that. I'm not comfortable with that. Is there any other way you can help me? So, to get better. And then as a coach, I got to say, well, all right, no, I'm not the smartest guy. There's always something better, and find a way to, like, all right, boom, it didn't work. Boom, that's on me. Hey, let's find a way to get. Always integrate your players into it because you want them to have some kind of accountability. You want them to feel they got some kind of ownership of what's going on. The days of dictator coach out the window. Players have too much power. They still sensitive guys and they got motion. So you got to allow them to have some ownership because when they got ownership, they'll put more into it. You'll put more into it. So I try to build that ownership principle, like, hey, we in this together. We put our hands because I take care of my family by what you do on the field, how you produce. You take care of your family, how I help you produce on the field. So we in it together. You know what I mean? This is a joint
Yeah.
proposition. This is a joint proposition, and you keep those things. Now, it's going to come a point we might have to agree to disagree. Some things is going to be stipulated. These are not going to change. These are what we can talk about it, whatever, but these are just pillars. Showing up on time, working hard, being attentive, being who you're supposed to be. Those are going to be our foundational things. But technique and different things of how we approach things, yeah, I'm open to it because at the end of the day, football is just a game. And I don't want to play no game if it's not fun. So you got to find a way to
Right.
make it fun for these guys. Because at the end of the day, they're just big kids that get big paychecks.
There it is. There it is. Hey, Brentson Buckner, Clemson great, Steelers great, NFL great, player, coach, and all around great man. Thank you.